Hello, this is Scott Herbst. I am founder and president of Six Flex Training and Consulting, and you are listening to the Flex. This is a conversation show where we talk with people who are expressing their leadership with the intention that it open access to you expressing yours. Today, I'm really happy to be talking with Dr. Jessica Gruber, who is the Chief Clinical Operating Officer at the Place for Children with Autism. They provide comprehensive ABA services to children with autism, clinic-based services to children with autism, mainly in the Chicagoland area. As usual, I am gonna let you hear most of Jessica's story from Jessica. Jessica, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I always start the show wanting to hear a little bit about your story. You can go back as far as you want, but I'm particularly interested in a couple things. One, what got you into this field, and then two, really what had you, step into a leadership pathway.
Yeah. So I went to undergraduate school for actually history education, so secondary education, graduated in 2008, where at that time there were no jobs available due to everything going on in the world. So despite
Yes.
having that degree, I took a job as a aide in a classroom for special needs kids, and they happened to be doing ABA in that classroom. And it just blew my mind. And I was immediately hooked, immediately kind of switched gears and just went down that path and uh, went and got my master's and then decided to get my PhD later. Um, but I ended up from there taking a job in an ABA clinic in Chicago, doing as a therapist. And that's kind of where it all started.
As a BCBA.
I started as a therapist and then I became a BCBA there and then became
Okay.
a center manager there. And then that's after 7 years there, I decided to come to my current company, which at the time was a startup. So I went from a very well-established large company to a brand new startup, kind of just getting everything going when I went over there.
hmm What had you make that switch?
Um, I think the opportunity to really put my stamp on something was part of it. I felt that at my previous company, I had gone into a position of leadership, but I didn't feel as though I had much say in actually what was happening. I maybe
Mhm.
had somewhat of the title, but not a lot of say. So I decided to go somewhere much smaller and be able to have a lot more input.
Yeah. That sounds like kind of a common story to me, whether I'm talking to someone who has kind of gone your route, right?
Mhm.
Found your company, but you saw the opportunity for leadership in a place that could grow, or like owners.
Yeah.
But what's common is the I didn't really love the way things were being done from along a spectrum to like I really didn't like it too. Like I just didn't love it. I saw the opportunity for something else.
Yeah.
I am curious what is the Jessica stamp?
Good question. I think I strive to create an environment where others don't maybe feel the way that I felt, where we ask for input. We want to hear their ideas. I say it all the time at my current company when I'm meeting new people, when I'm welcoming them in to say, like, if you have an idea, let us know. If you don't like something, let us know. Like, our door is always open. We want to hear from you. So I think it's creating that environment that maybe I didn't feel I had before is something I
Mhm.
strive to do.
Yeah. And well, that goes perfectly. Well, that creates the next question actually. What I'm interested in is how do you do that? And like I got the commitment to creating environment where people really bring their ideas forth and feel like they can say anything. I'm curious. I'm curious how you one communicated that as a startup And then really like what have you learned as you guys have scaled? Because you've scaled pretty significantly
Oh yeah.
in the like I'm from Chicago, and
Hmm.
the place for children with autism, right? Like a
Hmm.
recognizable name. How have you built that into your culture?
I think being relationship focused is important. Building relationships, showing up, being present, asking questions. I also know that, if an idea comes from a conversation with someone, I'm very cognizant of labeling that and ensuring that I don't ever take credit for someone else's ideas, or to ensure that if it was three people working on something, that each person is named, and it just creates this culture of shared shared progress and shared ideas, and shared ownership is probably a better way to say that. So I think just being very intentional about labeling that, recognizing people for their input, um, it's just something I'm always thinking about.
Yeah. Do you have a sense how you learned to do that?
I don't know. That's a great question. I've never reflected back on where I've learned to do that. I honestly, I don't know. It's just kind of something I've always done. I've always had this almost empathetic side of me, or inclusive, where I'm always thinking about how other people are feeling in different social situations and
Hmm.
wanting everyone to feel welcome and like they have a voice at the table. I feel like I've always been that way.
Okay, got it. Got it. I'm thinking of an organization as, um, from my perspective, organizations really are made of people and people behaving. And that's what gives an organization's culture is made up of not just people, but like the actions that people take.
Absolutely.
And so I'm kind of imagining a culture where people are known even when they're not in the room. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like doing something like making sure you highlight what people are up to and who's involved. Like I can tell you, um, yeah, like X, Y, and Z were involved in this project as well. It's kind of like you get to know them even though you're not sitting and like build a relationship. You said being relationship focused.
Yes.
What I'm hearing is that being relationship focused isn't just sitting like, oh, how are we getting along right now?
Hmm.
Creating, looking to nurture relationship between people,
Absolutely.
not around.
And I think earlier, I think one of the questions we had talked about, maybe talking about today, is maybe something how you've grown as a leader. And I think earlier in my career, I would have been intimidated by those around me, but I have learned through my leadership path that it's actually being a leader is lifting up everyone else around you. Being a leader is having everyone else around you successful, and putting your time and effort into their success. And I think, like I was saying, that's something that used to maybe intimidate me. And now it's what I strive to do all the time. So, like you're saying, bringing them up when they're not in the room, making sure that they get recognized, that's something I've always done.
Yeah, interesting. I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that that was something that intimidated you.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably something people can really relate to.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, uh what was it about that? Do you have a sense of like what it was about that you found intimidating?
I think as a new leader, it's probably a fear of like, if they're better than me, then why am I in the position I'm in? Or like comparing yourself
Mhm.
unnecessarily to someone.
Yeah,
But then you learn that your team is stronger when you have lots of voices in the room. Your team is stronger when there's lots of ideas. Your team is stronger when you have positive conflict and you think differently and you challenge each other. Those are all things that over time I've learned only makes everything better.
yeah. I want to underline that then, because I think that's probably something that anyone could take, and I'm always listening for what anyone could take from.
Yeah.
So not just like, the chief clinical operating officer, but the BCBA who's brand new, who is maybe managing their team for like now managing a team for the first time.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing is that you started with kind of a concern for, well, am I doing a good job? How do I look? Um, do people see the contribution I'm making to learning that actually making other people visible elevates the whole team? And you didn't say this, but I'm kind of imagining like in elevating your team, it elevates you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's just continuously always doing my best, like having a strong work ethic, always trying to do what's right, do my best, rather than being focused on the perception of your leadership. Just be like this sounds so cliche, but like just be the leader. Don't worry about how people are looking at you as a leader. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like a slight difference between the two. It's like you
Yeah.
shouldn't lead in a way you think people want you to lead. You should just be yourself. And that I think that's something over time I stopped worrying about what I looked like as a leader, you know?
Yeah. I want to take that out, actually, what you just said, because in my
Okay.
listening, you just said two conflicting things.
Tell me more.
Or no, maybe not conflicting things, but the be yourself
Yeah.
is terrible advice.
Why is that terrible advice?
Well, because I don't know who I am.
But you are just you. You just
But
do you.
no, hold on, bear with.
Okay, I'm listening.
Um, well, I think that a lot of people don't really know who they are.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and if I said, well, Jessica, go find yourself and show me who you really are, like you would have a really tough time coming back with like, okay, I've pinned down Jessica, right?
Okay.
But that first thing you said is like really super valuable.
Okay.
And what you said that was super valuable is to like actually look at, well, like what's uh the next I don't know what you said actually.
I don't
I'm
keep
gonna say
track.
it this way, like you said, like what's the right thing to do?
Yeah, exactly. Do what's right. Yeah.
Do what's right, do what's best, do what's
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
Um, and I think probably if you like totally forget about yourself,
Yeah.
question who am I, and actually look at like forgetting about myself, like what's the best thing to do right now,
Yeah.
uh, that will naturally open up a pathway to like where you are now, right?
Yes.
Or your own expression of leadership if it's not being the clinical officer for a uh actually like I think doing that will
Yeah.
actually lead you to yourself.
I I I agree with you. I think I've also found sometimes when like coming back to that, just doing what's right in front of you, doing what's right, doing what's best in that moment, I'm losing my train of thought, but you kind of
I'll keep going, this is fun.
okay.
Yeah.
But like I'm thinking of some recent things I've gone through, but like sometimes when something seems so big or so hard or so unknown, all
Yeah.
you can do is what's right in front of you. And if you are doing it
Yes.
with integrity and honesty and kindness, then you're going to do the right thing, even if you don't in
Yes.
that moment know what you're doing. If that makes sense. It's like if as
Makes
long as you're
perfect
leading with
sense.
those principles and those morals, what you end up choosing is going to be the right thing. And someone gave me that advice just a week ago, and it stuck with me.
Awesome. um the other thing I want to underline that you just said is you said integrity and honesty and kindness,
Hmm.
and you've probably thought somewhat about what you really value.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That communicates. And I think that's the other thing I would have people say, that if tell me what you think of this.
Okay.
Okay. um like when you say like really be yourself, I think what you're talking about is like be true to your values.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, that's something I can say, okay, I'm looking for like what can we tell our listeners to do?
Yep.
And one, know what your values are. If you know what
Absolutely.
your values and then are acting with like, okay, what's an expression of that in the world? Even if you
Yes.
don't know how to get to like the giant thing that like you can't go wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
See,
Uh,
we got there. Took us
I no,
a
I love this.
roundabout way.
I love the roundabout. Like,
Yeah.
let's dig into this idea. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, awesome. I love that. What have you learned? So we just like saved years of trial and error for people.
No, you're still going to go through the trial and error. It's part of the process. It is.
Cool. What can you say? Then I'm gonna ask you about the process. What can you say and what can you offer people in terms of like learning, not just like going through the process, but approaching it in a way that they enjoy and that the process is fulfilling.
Yeah. I mean, I I like challenging work. I like a puzzle. We make jokes about puzzles all the time, but like I really do. I like taking things apart and putting them back together and getting be given a problem and helping fix it. And like I really enjoy that process itself.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there are going to be times where things are really hard or things are really stressful. I was reflecting in preparation for this conversation about leading through COVID and just all of the unknowns of COVID and managing a large workforce and having to be be the person or a group of people that people are looking to for answers when there weren't a lot of answers at the time.
Yeah.
That was really, really hard. But coming back to that, like leading with integrity, honesty, kindness, that's how you get through those unknown times, those stressful times. Um, Another recent thing that we've gone through, something that helps me is to kind of ground myself in the why. Like coming back to the people that I'm leading, their success. And a good example is right now, we go through challenges at work like we always do. And one of them right now is BCBA understaffing, where we don't have enough BCBAs. And something that I've noticed my team doing is on their own, without being prompted, if they have extra time in their week, asking the team, like, hey, I've got 2 extra hours. Does anyone need some extra case support or need extra eyes on a case clinically? And they're doing that without being asked. And it's little things like that that when I'm feeling super stressed, ground me in leadership and what I'm doing. And it helps me keep going. And then coming back to the start of our conversation, that's a moment where I would do like a shout out online and be like, hey guys, I see what you're doing. This is amazing. And like that whole full circle, like regrounds me in my why when I'm feeling super stressed and it gets me through the hard times.
Yeah. Awesome.
Does
The
that make sense?
Yeah, it makes
Okay, good.
perfect sense. I'm looking
Okay.
for, here's what I hear. Let's do the back and forth thing and figure out like the difference that makes. Um, I don't know what it is, but my own experience is when I acknowledge people, I get bigger.
Yeah.
Like actually like finding things to appreciate people for and then appreciating them like you said, it brings you back to your why. It grounds you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
For me, I think my language for that would be like it kind of inspires me.
That too.
Like being
100%.
inspired by people
Yes.
for whatever reason inspires me, or finding out what's inspiring or what like connecting to the difference they make inspires me.
Absolutely.
And then acknowledging them for that, right?
Yep.
So what you just described is that like finding out what's amazing, the difference people make, like what you see in others, and then appreciating them for that is
Yeah.
like uh I tell people to like find your water and
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that's going to actually like rejuvenate you, like find that thing and make sure you're connected to it.
Absolutely. And I
Sounds
think
like
as
something.
a leader, hopefully that is what partially what drives you, because leading people, if you're not inspired by them doing well or their success, then I'm not sure leading people is the right thing to be doing, because that's hopefully what brings you joy is the people around you that you're leading, because it's such a big part of the job.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Now I'm thinking about how I'm like, does anyone not like that? I mean, maybe people don't like that.
Like I think probably what could happen, and I've been there too, is just like when you're feeling so stressed or things are so fast paced that you forget about the good that's happening around you. Or if something bad happens, you forget about all the good that's happening. So that's where I'm cognizant of when I'm feeling those things, trying to lead myself back to that why or finding that water that you said.
Yeah.
I know that's something that will kind of get me back into a good headspace and like get me on that path forward.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of how you learned to do that?
Um, I had an executive coach for about a year and a half
Uh,
that did a lot of help. Like it helped me really be aware of my own thinking, my own thoughts. So I'd say that was a huge shift in my ability to quickly reground myself or deal with high levels of stress or deal with the unknowns of work. It really did a lot. And I try to bring a lot of those things that I learned from that time with her into my own one-to-ones, into my own group meetings, to kind of share those tips, and tricks.
yeah. Awesome. I'm gonna underline that as well. That well, one, I just appreciate you saying that I worked with someone.
Yeah.
And I think that uh one thing that where people get bogged down, thwarted, I don't know what the word is, but in leadership is there's an I people often have an idea of leadership that they've got to have it all handled. And it really hamstrings people uh when coming from that perspective, they don't do things like get coaching when they need it,
Oh,
or
yeah.
find people to consult with, or like just being willing to be vulnerable with someone and say like, I need help, I don't know, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think constantly seeking to learn more as a leader is so important, whether it's podcasts, books, book clubs, leadership groups, mentorship groups. I've done all of these things, an executive coach, even just personal therapy to, have an outlet to think about your own thinking. Um, just constantly striving to learn more and know that you're never going to know it all. You can't possibly ever know it all. And yeah, being vulnerable to say I don't know. Like I think in the beginning of leadership, that scared me to say I don't know. And now I'm like, I don't know. Let's learn.
Hmm.
So
Awesome. um Anything you want to recommend since you brought it up? Books, podcasts?
I've listened to all of Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. Loved those. Um, I don't think she makes new ones anymore, but I
I
loved
think her
theirs in that
podcast
series.
is
Yeah, her podcast.
yeah.
She has a book too, but I really enjoyed the podcast because in the podcast, she interviews a different leader every meeting, similar to this actually. And they go through their story and talk about leadership, vulnerability, and I learned a lot there. And then from there, if there are specific leaders that I felt attached to, I would go read their book potentially. So that's a really good one to start with. Simon
Awesome.
Sinek, love him. Anything by Simon Sinek is great.
And he's about finding your why,
Yes,
which you
yes,
mentioned. Yep.
yes, yes.
I think he's got the most popular, second most popular TED Talk ever.
I'm sure I've seen it. We play Simon Sinek videos in almost every leadership meeting we have. Yeah.
Um, then I think, let me look. We're getting like close to the edge of our time here. Um, my next question is, what is your next challenge? And you could look at this in a couple ways. I'd love both, but one, like, what are you taking on in your organization, and how are you looking to grow and develop yourself in that?
Good question. So I did recently take on, so I was previously chief clinical officer and now chief clinical operating officer. So we made the decision to combine our clinical and operations into clinical and operations. So it's all kind of under one roof, having more of like a cohesive team strategy, all that. So I think taking on the metrics and the oversight of operations is new. We just did this in late April. So for me, it's the fun challenge of really intimately knowing all of the different metrics we're doing there, getting to know that team even on a deeper level, even though I've, knew everyone, I didn't know them the same level I will now. And then figuring out new ways to work as one single team is the challenge ahead right now.
Awesome. How do you see that challenging you? Like, what do you?
Mm. Um, I guess just the newness of it. Maybe thinking differently about perhaps things on the clinical side that we may have done a certain way for a longer period of time, that being flexible in our thinking and the ways we do things, being open to change. Um, I'm sure that's going to be part of the process for improvement.
Awesome.
I don't
Um,
really like those two answers. I don't really have a better one though.
yeah, I understand. Sometimes you don't really know how something's going to challenge you until you do it. And
Yeah. I like I said before, I like challenges though. So like that excites me. So I'm excited about what I'm doing and the newness of it. It's just a lot. I guess a better response would be there's so much I want to change at once that
Mhm.
I can't do it all. So it's prioritizing the most important thing that's going to have the biggest impact. And then kind of just slowly making my way down the list and knowing that that's okay. It's okay to not do everything at once. So that's probably my biggest personal challenge is wanting to do it all.
Yeah, but that's been a theme of the conversation that we've had, is that um things can get overwhelming when it's you look at the big picture, and
Yep.
there's probably some value and importance in looking at the big picture.
Yep.
Then what there is to do is to, take a step in that direction, and
Yeah,
do so aligned with
exactly.
your values and what you care about and the difference that you really want to make. I can hear that as a theme. I had another question. Oh yeah. Because you've said it a couple times now that you like a challenge,
Hmm.
and I think that's great. I think I love hearing that, right? And I'm curious if you have any advice for, like, if you've learned to love a challenge, or if there's challenges that at some point confronted you, and you like learned to love it. And here's what I'm hearing. Like, you're someone, if we use a sports metaphor, it's kind of like you want the ball, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, like
maybe. Not a sports guy, but yeah.
but like, no, like, put me in the game, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Like,
Yeah.
put me in the game. I want to play,
Yes.
right? And if you had any advice for someone who might be a little hesitant to get in the game, right?
Hmm. Um, I would say, I don't know. I mean, maybe just what do you mean by hesitant to get in the game? Like maybe restate the question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Someone here's what I mean. Someone who sees something as possible,
Hmm.
right? And maybe it's just that like, they're at work and they've got complaints about how things are. Like, oh, they should do things different, or wish they would this, or I wish someone would take care of that, right? And is so maybe sees how something could be improved, uh and is a little like, I don't
Yeah.
want to be the one to speak up. I don't, am I the person to speak up? Right.
Yes.
Um,
I would say yes. That would be my first advice is speak up. So no matter what position you are, to talk to someone, because I guess I can only speak for myself and my organization, but we want to hear the feedback of our people. We want to know how things are going. We want to know that how that policy that we wrote is actually being implemented or received in the field. We want that feedback so we can make changes, because at the end of the day, we want good for the organization. We want good for our clients. We want good for our staff. We want people to be happy. So if that's not landing on the other end, we want to know that. And then also with that is, I think if for some reason something can't change or something is the way it is, giving us the opportunity to further explain why, I think can be very helpful. I think early on in my journey as a clinician, as a leader, not always knowing all the context around decisions. I think sometimes I filled in the blanks incorrectly. And
mhm.
I've learned over time that ask more questions so you can understand the why behind it. And it doesn't mean I'm always going to agree with what's happening, but if it's done from a place of, like, again, honesty, integrity, you can at least accept it and be like, okay, might not be what I would have decided, but because it's done with honesty, integrity, it's not harming anyone, there is a reason behind it. I can get behind it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think there's a whole world of great advice there in that it one, like raise your concerns,
Yes.
like take the risk, right?
Yes.
A lot of times, or at least if um a lot of times your leaders want to hear that.
Yes.
And what I'm hearing is that if you're in an organization that doesn't want to hear that, there's organizations out there that do.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it sounds like you guys are hiring.
Yeah, we are hiring. Yes.
Yeah. Um, and then the other thing I really heard was like asking those questions to be interested in like what's their perspective? Like
Yes.
what is the perspective of the leaders?
Yeah, exactly.
If you have the perspective of the leaders, things kind of usually make sense.
Hopefully. And
Uh,
hopefully that's where that builds that trust with your leadership, is that you understand the why. You can ask those questions. And I think if you're not there at a place of trust, then maybe it's not the right place to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything I'd like to ask people, what are you proud of?
Um, at work or just in
I,
general?
listen, tell me what you're proud of. Be
Proud of my
proud of.
kids. No, I am. I am proud of my kids. I have two beautiful daughters, and I'm very proud of them. They
All
just
today.
um 4 and 9.
Awesome.
Yes. Proud of them. But at work, I am proud of where I work. I am proud of my team. I truly mean that and believe that we are always striving to do better. And that doesn't mean we always have everything exactly right, but I know in my heart that we will continue to try to do things better. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be at an organization like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how can people reach you?
They can reach me. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. I'm happy to chat. Send me a message if you have questions about leadership or anything ABA. I'm happy to be a sounding board. Like I said, having those mentor relationships has done a lot for me, and I'd be happy to do that for others.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being here. Thanks especially for the kind of like back and forth. Let's work out about this idea. Those are my
Yep.
favorite conversations.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, so thanks. Whether you enjoyed it or not.
Oh no, I did really did enjoy it. I'm kind of
Yeah.
sorry I'm cutting it
And
off so early.
for me, the big takeaway, the thing that will resonate past this is to be focused on your values and to do the work to make like answer the question, who am I, in terms of, well, what do I really care about,
Hmm.
and act in accordance with that. is a really powerful thing.
Absolutely.
So that's my takeaway. So thank you for that. And again, thanks just for being here and having the conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
And thank you to our listeners, and we will see you here next time.